You want to turn that on?
Cool.
Ready? Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the April 13th Airport Advisory Board. I'd like to call this to order with a roll call of the Airport Board. Aaron, please start.
Aaron Salzer.
Joan Chunter.
Greg G. Feller
Brett Boyer. Mark Bear.
and Tim Conbrecht is joining us via Zoom.
Says 10 pound, but I can't verify.
Okay. So I'd like us to all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, introduction of visitors. Sir, can we start with you?
Hi, my name's Nathan. I'm a flight student here. It's my first airport meeting. Just wanted to be more educated about what's going on in and around the airport.
Right on. Thank you.
Cool, perfect.
Corey. Okay.
Kim Stevenson, Airport.
Lauer, I'm the owner of Fort Aviation Maintenance.
Darcy Belcher for Stanford Justin.
Legally, Corling Airport.
Sir.
Dave Pretal, Soaring Association.
Also Rhodes, Corling Airport Association.
Steve Anderson, Airport Association.
Thank you very much.
Also chairman, we have Joe Rossetti and Keith Lang on as well.
Okay, welcome. Okay, I'd like to, item 4, call for conflicts of interest. Does any of the board see a conflict? Very good. Any changes to the agenda? All righty. I'd like to call for approval of minutes of the previous meetings.
I so moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. D-zone request to waive minimum standards action. Is anyone from D? There you are.
Right.
Okay, Jeremy, we've had a chance to read your letter. I think what we're going to allow is a little bit of back and forth conversation about why you feel that way. However, when you speak, we'd like you to come up and stand here. That way the microphone can pick you up.
Okay.
Okay?
So, board members, the airport received this email from Mr. Is on diving, sorry, about the request to, or basically request to not follow the minimum standards. The airport then reviewed the minimum standards to actually have what the actual request is. And attached is the airport's review. The airport is not guaranteeing that this is all of them, as we have not received what the true operational plan of how the load and unload process would work from D-zone as well. So there may be other things that would be added later, but this is the list as we see it today.
So Stephen, it's a lengthy list. Can you, for the benefit of everyone here, can you give us an executive summary?
A quick summary is that it is development standards for the facility. It's also just general standards that we require for all of our SASOs, such as compliance issues, lease requirements for all of our SASOs. It's not specifically for a skydiving operation. We also have commercial activities, such as operational plan, proposed facility requirements, financial responsibility. Skydiving operations specifically, we have loading areas, clearly established, and also different things. There's a lot of specifics in it.
So really what your, well, I guess what your response is that we would have quite a few items that are in the current rules and standards that would be, we'd have to set aside.
Yes, the board as the advisory board is the decision maker. The airport staff recommendation is not to approve the waiver of minimum standards because there is a lengthy list. If it was just the paved parking, that's one thing. But there's a pretty significant list on here of what it is. And the airport agrees that yes, Mr. Devon is truly requesting to lease the area in red, but it doesn't address the rest of the area and
Okay,
other issues.
okay,
If he were to, the reason why he was able to operate previously was a lot of the issues were addressed because they were operating underneath the resort banner. Because they're leasing space from resort, they had the facilities that the resort had that were accommodating it because they were fixed-based operators.
so. the
So
facilities are-
resort was approved and then he was leasing space from them, so he was ultimately approved at that time. That's why we didn't go through this
Yes,
process before. Okay.
Which gave him an office and restrooms and whatever
Yes.
else needs to be in here, right?
Yep.
Okay,
because they already had paved parking lots, they had tied out or space for loading and unloading the aircraft, they had all those items already in place because of resort being an FBO. And the office space and the adequate space to do, the briefing of passengers on the plane, the packing of chutes, all those things were done on that, the location. So that way, it was the adequate space to meet the needs. Right now, the only thing that has been provided in form of the airport is that this would be a landing zone. We expressly forbid operations from a tie down or a T-hang. So the only location that we've been informed about is a tie down. The airport's asked for how these would meet the minimum standards, and we have not received that. This was the email that we received.
Jeremy,
Yes,
any comments?
well, if there's ever open dialogue,
Or you move your chair up, whatever works for you.
whatever you guys want.
Just so we can-
If there had ever been any open dialogue between me and the airport director, a lot of this stuff probably could have taken care of beforehand. I've been not allowed into so-called meetings about me and what's going on at the airport. Everything that's going on as far as me leasing the spot. I've been trying to do this for over a year. I want to build a facility for myself. I've been through the meeting with the Kootenai County people. They know what they want me to do. I know what they want out of me. And I'm still requesting a lease. Stephen has told me that, no, I can't get a lease until I have one of these meetings. I've already done one of these meetings. I know what they want. I know what they're doing. This has just been dragging on since I got here. And before I waste anyone else's time, or my time, I would like to sign a lease.
So can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Who are those people you've been meeting with at the county?
In the county, I did one of the Zoom meetings. that they had.
But with who specifically?
It's been so long ago. I can't
The
remember.
commissioners or
The city planning people.
the city planners? Okay.
County.
I mean, county
County
planners.
Yes,
Technically, it's in your jurisdiction.
That,
Yes.
so they come in and talk to one of their guys?
I had the Zoom meeting with someone, they laid out, they said I need this stuff, and I tried to get the lease, and then that's where everything stopped. Once I started moving forward on the lease, everything got changed. I couldn't load where I had been loading. The stand craft gates, the codes weren't set up, I couldn't use those. I can only load at the ARF station for last year. So I was like, okay, where should we move? Is this the best spot for me? I started questioning where we can move, what's going on, but basically nothing came out of that except, bad words and stuff like this that we come across. And, here I am. Stancraft buys up half the airport. I lose my lease. I'm trying to find another place to operate. I can't get it. I had bookings made. I had a nice stellar December, where I had all kinds of bookings, people booked in. I'm just trying to keep my business alive.
Okay, so in a perfect world and completely hypothetical, if you had a lease on the red square up there, run me through how that operation would work.
Just the
Because
landings.
just the landing, so where are you gonna pack and load passengers and divers?
Packing can be done outside. It's done all the time, when the winds get too high, we're not jumping in. It's done, drop zones all over the world, people back outside. It's just done that. As far as parking, bringing people in, I just bus them from my office in town. drive through the gate, drop them off at my landing area there, and head back time to get the next year.
Operationally, there's no airplane that's gonna get out there to that landing zone. Where are you gonna load and unload?
Well, I'd probably load through the FBO there at Standcraft. I mean, I am buying food from them. They're the only FBO on the airport. It seems like the only place I'm allowed to load either there or from the public loading ramp over there by the T hangars.
Jeremy, have you talked to Stancraft yet? Because you haven't informed me of any of this.
Okay.
You haven't, I asked you in multiple emails, what is your operational plan? How are you going to meet the minimum standards? You didn't respond to any of those questions.
What, with me just landing there?
That doesn't address the minimum standards of the
Okay.
facilities.
What is the
All of it.
facility?
It's spelled out in the letter, Jeremy. You have to have something that meets the required facility, sufficient to meet your reasonable anticipated demand of products on the field.
Okay,
So how are you going to meet that?
the demand of my people?
Of your customers, your bathrooms,
business.
your business, everything like that.
I really don't need a facility. I've done this before where I fly a plane to an airport. I've been set up already. I do everything on my phone without a facility whatsoever.
But the point is, those, whatever area you were doing that in before doesn't have the same minimum standards that this airport has. And so it's kind of apples and oranges that, yes, in fact, that it worked before, and I get that and I understand that. But, okay, you don't need parking, and you can justify that because you've got an office downtown and you're gonna bus people out. Okay. Where are they gonna go potty before they get on board with this thing?
Portable restrooms.
Well, that stuff should be spelled out then. Probably prior to asking for waiving all of this stuff. That's it. To me, it just doesn't look like there's anything put in place yet. Is there a plan?
Yeah, I have a plan, but until I move forward in my plan, and like I said, I'm done wasting time. I've been out here 2 years now, and the rug's been pulled out from under. I'm done wasting time until I have all this stuff and make progress and start moving forward with this. I want to know I have a land lease and somewhere to operate my business.
It's kind of the catch-22.
Right, it is.
Jeremy, you talked about earlier that you had a plan to build a facility.
I had discussions. I didn't have a plan made, if you're talking about physical plans.
Well, no, I'm talking not necessarily physical plans, but you had concept.
Yes,
Concept to lease another spot, because you obviously don't want to have the landing spot where your parachute
Your
landing
building is.
on the building.
well, that's
So-
why I'm leasing so much land. There is room for an office and my landing area and backing.
Okay, so your ultimate intention, it sounds to me, as if in the red square, you would have a facility built, a building built, that would provide restrooms.
Yes.
All of this. Okay, and parking and that sort of stuff. So that would solve that problem. So what is the project timeline?
Well, once the lease is signed, I have 1 year to start construction, right?
Typically.
Typically, if we do understand that there's some issues with building, so,
The COVID effect.
and so having the intention to try and start building, but this is the first that I've seen, and reading your email, it doesn't show me that you had the intention to put something there.
I've always had that intention.
Okay,
There's been numerous emails. You've seen one out of a whole string.
my opinion, you've changed your direction on us multiple times.
And you change yours as well.
I have not changed. I've said that you meet the minimum standards multiple times. If whatever happens on other leases that have nothing to do with the airport, that is not our responsibility or anything to do with us. We've told you from the start, tell me what your plan is. And this is, I'll be honest, this is the email I get from you of what your plan is. Tell me how to meet your minimum standards. We haven't got it.
Well, if I'm just landing out there and I'm busting in and I have a portable restroom, what other standards do I need to meet?
Now you're through the fence operator too.
Well, that's why I'm requesting a waiver.
That's not what you requested though. And that's a different thing that we have to address is that the only thing we identify as through the fence is mechanics or anything to do with aviation maintenance. So
Wasn't there a non-occupied tank clause in there as well? What is, how does NetJets operate on?
that shit isn't a through the fence operator.
They have an office here?
They're landing and departing. They're
They don't-
not building.
Kind of the same thing as Skydiver does. They show up, get on the plane, we jump, we land, they leave.
But you're busing your clients into the airport, so now you have that in and out.
Yeah.
You know,
But I
so, I mean,
go right through Stancraft or
so,
public ramp. I mean, where do you want me to load? I can load wherever you guys tell me.
So I have
You know,
a
it just
question.
doesn't matter.
So when a resort, you were operating under resort,
Mhm.
these requirements, you didn't have to meet because you were under their umbrella, so to speak. Have you approached Stancraft to see if they would work out some similar agreement with you?
Not yet, because I'd like to know if I have somewhere to operate before I waste anyone else's time.
So
So if he
the,
has a lease, can he operate like he did before?
If you have a lease with Stancraft, you can easily operate the same way as you did.
I don't fit into their scheme. They won't lease me an office.
but you weren't paying for the dirt to land on last year, were you?
I was not. I've been trying to get a lease for many, many months now.
40,000 square feet,
That's what I've asked for.
20 some odd cents a square foot.
26.
$10,000 a year.
And so that is also facility and landing zone in that square?
Well, Skydive, what is a Skydive facility? The Skydive does not happen in an office. It happens outside, landing field.
right,
That field
but
is my facility.
I'm gonna put myself in the shoes of, okay, I wanna do this. So I'm gonna call you up, book a situation. Where am I getting my pre-go brief?
You go brief, it's done.
Discussion?
It's about a 5-minute brief. I can give you one right now if you want.
No, but on the flight line is not where we would typically expect. It's not where I would typically expect that. I would typically expect it in some sort of an office, you know.
Where are they gonna sign their waivers?
Yeah,
It's all done online. Everything is online. I do not take cash in my place. They do it online. They're booked in, they pay before they show up. I put them on the plane and do that.
I mean, if it, to me, it's kind of like when I did the zip line, you go to resort, the resort complex shops.
Yeah.
And you go in there, you sit down, they fit you for your
Kind of like the
harness.
office I'm gonna lease out in town.
They fit you for your harness and all that sort of stuff, and then they bus me to where I go zipping down the line.
Okay, so you're gonna do all that stuff in town then, in the office in town?
It'd be in the town, in the landing area. Usually, the briefing has to be done by the person that's doing the jump. That's the standards by the FAA, USPA. So the briefing is not done in like a big group setting. The instructors do that. They come down, hey, how you doing? My name's so-and-so. Let's go for a jump. This is what you gotta do. Is they put on arms, they brief them up, they tell them what to do. Get on our bus, go to our loading area. back for the next group.
So the briefing would happen in town in whatever office that you're renting in town.
90% of the time, that briefing is gonna happen just before they board the airplane.
In that
So,
red square.
They can happen in the red square, it can happen in the bus, it can, I mean, we got one guy up here that's been skydiving, Brett.
Yeah,
How long was your briefing?
I don't know, 5-10 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, there you go.
yeah, I mean, I'm not expecting it to be a half an hour, because, but yeah, 5-10 minutes makes sense to me. But so along, I'm still kind of stuck on, do you have an intention to put a building there
Yes.
with a restroom and, an
That's been
office,
my
so
intention.
that,
We've talked about shipping container offices, temporary offices, portable restrooms, talked about all that. That's always been my intention. When I started this conversation with Stephen back in 2019, I had said that I want to have a nice, long-standing operation at an airfield. And I moved up here off of one remark by Stephen. FAA guidance, I cannot restrict your activities at this airport. So I packed up from Colorado and I came on up.
okay,
Okay, a couple things. We talked about portable restrooms.
Mhm.
We went through this a couple of meetings ago. I believe they need to be actual restrooms hooked to a sewer.
Yes, that's called out. We can allow temporary facilities in place. But I'm gonna be honest, if you're allowing facilities, my concern is this is a requirement, a lot of these requirements are requirements for all SASOs. If you start changing for any SASO, you need to be prepared to do them for all SASOs. That is my concern is, if you're gonna waive any requirement, you need to be prepared to have every SASO come in and make that same request.
well, in the, our minimum standards, I mean, it says we can give you a waiver,
Yes,
and that would be okay. I'm not saying I'm gonna vote yea or nay for a waiver, I'm just saying, okay, we give you a waiver, but you have to come in, you have to have a plan to come into compliance with what we're waiving.
Yeah. That's been my
So,
intention, like I said, that is
But-
my intention.
So Stan, have you seen such a plan?
no. I've seen
Are you able to bring one to us?
Like, okay, we can go online, 40-foot shipping container office.
Well, I think it needs to be something that we can tangibly look at.
Don't we have architectural standards at this airport?
There are some architecture, there are some
There should
requirements.
be.
If it's a temporary facility
Okay.
for shipping containers, it's fine, but it's permanent structures we expect.
Okay.
for permanent.
Within a year or something like
Right.
that, because Stancraft had the Airstreams and stuff out for
Right,
a while.
That was, we gave them 2 years.
Okay.
yeah, I think it'd be pretty hard to make a recommendation or vote on a waiver without knowing what the
What the plan is.
plan
Yeah,
is.
This is the first time I'm hearing of it, Jeremy, and we've talked,
Yeah.
so
So,
you
And
wanna
at
write,
least I'll give you a plan.
no,
well,
It's petty.
well, I mean,
you're asking the advisory board to make a decision. and
Can
we
I
don't have
operate
enough
until I
information.
have that waiver?
Well, I'm sorry, say that again.
I cannot operate until I have the waiver, right? Have I made any like moves that says I'm gonna operate until this has been okay? Like right now, I'm already guilty before I've even started.
The issue, Jeremy, we're not asking for the world, we're asking you to provide us a plan and
Just an
an
outline.
outline and a time frame of when you expect to be able to meet our minimum standards.
I wanna know what bathrooms you're gonna use and who it is that you've talked to allow you to do that, if you can get permission for that, and or something in lieu of that.
Well, you know,
Right.
Stancraft's not gonna let me do it. I don't see it in their
Well, I don't-
schemes.
Have you
I
talked to them?
I don't know any of that.
Well, all around stuff.
But this is what you're asking us to waive is, where are you gonna safely load and unload people? Where are you gonna park your bus after you're bussing out here? You know, how are you gonna access the airfield from the outside? You know, that needs to be thought about, planned out, so that we don't just have willing gate access. We're gonna load over here one day and over there the next day. You know, that needs to be worked out.
It goes back to the operational plan. I've asked for that too, Jeremy, and haven't gotten it.
Yeah.
It's,
So is it, you don't want to spend money on the plan, is that what- to do all this if you?
I don't want to go in and spend all this money when ultimately I'm run out of the airport.
So if Jeremy presented a plan, would we lease him that ground?
the question is I'm not gonna go through the issue of creating a lease when we know we haven't seen nothing that says somebody can meet the minimum standard.
But if he did,
If we did, we could lease the ground.
I mean,
now, is that the spot we want to tie up though for 50 years? I mean, I don't know where else we tie it up. But
It is what it is.
okay, 40 years.
That area is not designed for future.
Okay.
so it's actually a good fit for his operation.
We show future hangar use in that area, but it's not set in stone how the taxi lanes are laid out. If we already have a leasehold in place, we can design around it. So,
And
So,
there's road access to that?
yeah,
I mean,
there's,
there's a road, but
it's not public access is the issue.
how does he get
It's-
access?
yeah, how do you get,
That's
you
another
know,
issue.
you're gonna, I'm just gonna imagine we're coming through the Atlas gate.
So we could put a
So how are you
padlock with
getting
a
your
button
packs
on it. No.
from,
Well, I can't hear.
how are you getting your packs to the airplane? Where's the airplane tied?
We don't know that yet, do we? Unless you got dirt.
Gotta tell me where I'm allowed to load, you know, and if Stancraft says I can't load there, why am I buying gas from? It's the only place I can buy gas on the airport. I mean, I'm kind of been shoved in this hole. It's like, okay, what do I do?
So if you lease that land, is your intention to load on their ramp?
Yeah.
Is that your
They're
intention?
the public, right?
Okay. Um,
There is a,
I don't think that's a good idea without some kind of agreement with Stancraft.
yeah, it's long term, it's gonna be challenging.
Okay, then where can I live?
Well, that's what we're trying to determine. I would recommend, I don't know how the rest of you feel, that you talk to Stancraft and see what they would, if they would work with you, first of all, because that would solve a whole bunch of your problems.
And if they don't, because I don't fit in their
Then come
scheme.
back and see us, but with some kind of plan.
Well, it sounds to me, to be honest, you probably, if you don't fit their scheme, you probably know what Stancraft's gonna say.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so why am I wasting my time again? You know, I've been
Well-
wasting my time on it for 2 years, trying to make this happen.
Well, it's. You can't get a yes if you don't ask. I mean, and I realize you only have so much time in a day, but it seems to me that you need to reach out to Stancraft to get a no or a yes, and not just say, well, I'm gonna get a no, so, you know.
Yeah.
So
And
forget
they
it.
might just give you a temporary time frame where you could start an operation until all the rest of the details get worked out too.
At this point, I'm not gonna have an operation this year. It's too late in the game. I've lost my employees. I still don't have a land lease. I have nowhere to operate. So I'm kind of taking a year off to make all this happen and put it in place. But I'm not gonna move forward. I'm not gonna waste any more time, energy, effort at this airport unless I get a land lease. And that's it.
Well, and in order to get a land lease, we need to see a plan. I mean,
You need to meet the minimum standards,
Yeah, yeah.
or
What's the plan?
So what happens when someone builds a hangar here? Right? They lease the land.
And they
They provide us.
a drawings of, here's
Before the
what,
land is leased?
here's what,
yes,
yes.
because there are height restrictions and all, they have to comply with all
Right.
the
And
minimums.
if it doesn't comply, what happens? Oh, you can't build it. Back to the drawing board,
Exactly.
right?
Right.
So what's the difference whether I have a plan to build or at least
We actually don't.
where I'm gonna build,
I mean, the
as
airport
long as
actually.
I follow all the standards?
Yeah, we'll actually tell people not to build when they come in with plans. we won't issue leases for that too. We've done that in the past.
So do we normally issue a lease?
So
And
if
then
we
they go and work
Would,
on
would
their
you
plan?
cancel my lease if if I had a lease already and then resort sold and Stancraft didn't lease me an office? Oh, your lease is out, you're out of here. Is that? what would happen?
Yeah, because you don't meet the minimum standards.
Yes, we would have.
So I understand your frustration. It's gotta be pretty frustrating
Yeah,
to
yeah.
spend all this time, but we're trying to resolve a problem here. And so if you could meet us halfway and bring us some kind of plan, I think it would be a huge help, and I would recommend calling Stancraft too.
Okay, who can I bring it to?
Well, it has,
Can I circumvent?
No, no,
Is
it
there-
has to come to staff
Okay.
at the airport, and then they give it to us.
Yeah, they give it to us, I mean, because it's
If,
more
if,
efficient that way.
if the plan meets the minimum standards, we probably don't even need to see it.
Right,
Right,
As long as it meets the minimum standards, it meets
right.
right.
pretty much most of these, like the parking thing we've waived on others, the paid parking we've waived for vehicles on other facilities.
Right.
There's things we waive internally all the time. But this is too big of an ask that I can't waive this. This has to be done by the board. But if
And
it's
we
a
have-
plan, it needs it.
And I think we have to be a little bit cautious because we don't want to set a precedence that is gonna keep reoccurring that doesn't meet the standards.
Well, my fear is if we make a waiver, I mean, Jeremy, I wish you the best of luck in your business. But if we make a waiver on this, the next guy's gonna come down the street or somebody else that's already paying dearly for something, you're gonna say, no, I want a waiver too. You gave Diesel a waiver. I think where we're at tonight, either we make a motion to approve a waiver and recommend that to the Kootenai County Commissioners, or we make a motion to deny.
So.
Let's
You can
table it.
Approve a waiver based
No.
on the acceptance of my plans.
Yeah, let's table it until he can bring something to us.
I'm with Aaron. Yeah, it's like,
Whenever that
We-
chance to
we-
give
we
it that
just-
option, but okay.
We just don't have anything to look at here because there isn't a plan, but now I think, Jeremy, you understand what you need to do is bring us X, Y, and Z. Okay, I'm gonna meet this one with a sea container. I'm gonna meet this one with a porta potty. I'm gonna meet this one with this is where I'm gonna load my people. This is how I'm gonna bus them in and out, right? Bring us a working plan of how you imagine this going. And then if it looks viable, then we can make a recommendation to the county commissioners to say, yeah, we believe in this.
Well,
So it doesn't go to.
it doesn't go to them.
It's just us, okay.
Just us.
I thought
So if it's, if it's viable and it's gonna work,
So you can go back, I'm not sure I understood the answer. Do you normally issue the lease, but then it's conditioned on him meeting all the requirements? If he doesn't meet the
No,
requirements, then he doesn't, he
So
can't
if
go.
it's a business, we typically, they have to provide us something that says how they're gonna meet the minimum standards. So if they're taking over the facility that already is in place, it's a little bit vaguer. But if it's a new facility like Stancraft, they had to show us plans that said, okay, they're gonna meet this, they're gonna do this. That's what,
Here's a question, I mean, maybe I just don't know. So we got, lines there. What would he have to do if he found a facility that was just outside, like airport boundaries, and that's where he did all of this, but it was close, and then he wanted to then come in and enter, and
that falls under through the fence operator.
so
So it's vague. It would take an exemption from the minimum standards again. About that, because like we said, the only minimum through the fence operator we allow is aircraft maintenance.
okay.
So you once told me that if I find a landing area off in town, I can operate that way. What's the difference then? If I operate out in town, but just my plane is here. And I didn't even have an office here, but that's viable. You told me that I could land out in town before.
Well, that was if you have nothing, all you're doing is nothing here.
Yeah,
You're doing nothing here. You're really departing out of here as an airplane. That's all
That's
you're doing. That's it. You're an airplane as far as we're concerned.
Can you do it off half of a tie down though?
He's not operating as a SASO at that point to us.
So where would your airplane be when you're not
It'd
flying?
have to be at the airport. It's the only place to park airplanes.
On one of the transient ramps or whatever?
Can you land somewhere else? Again, this is, I don't know this.
I'm not going anywhere else.
Okay,
Look
all
at
right.
Priest River, you got people right up against the fence there. I'd outgrow that place in a matter of months.
So I just
So
meant if
we're-
you took off here, but you were in the county and landed in the county.
So it would have to be approved by the FAA. There's a lot of requirements.
That's easy. It's just getting the town approvals more than the FAA.
So where would the drop zone be under that scenario? It could be anywhere.
That doesn't matter. I want to land these here at the airport. It's the best way, the safest way to make it all happen. Keep everything controlled, where I know where my people are at. They're not out there jumping over the lake, over town, stuff like that. Around the airport, people are expecting things flying through the air. Parachutes are part of general aviation. So this is the safest, best place for me.
So Jeremy, in just my experience, I mean, I think you have some folks that are trying to brainstorm and help you make it work. But my experience looking at this, I mean, we've got 2 pages of requirements that you're asking us to waive. And there's some significant things here. So that's what we have, what we're asked tonight to look at. And I'm looking at this, it's pretty much everything that would be required of the facility to waive. And I think what we're saying is, we're not comfortable waiving all this, but if you have a plan that addresses some of these, we're willing to look at it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Have a motion to table this?
I make a motion to table this until such time as Jeremy's able to bring us some type of plan.
Sorry.
Okay, discussion. I just want to make one thing clear. If Jeremy brings you all the stuff he needs, we'll lease him that ground. Okay. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Tim, you want to vote?
Is that yay?
Yeah, okay. Very good. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Staff reports, updates, Stephen.
So D North is almost done. I think we're in closeout preparation. Runway decoupling has changed to runway design. Electrical was actually out for bid. And we actually will be awarding the contract to Calvico next week. That was the amount of a little over $500,000. We talked about this last time, but it's updating a lot of our regulators, which are dating back to the 80s. We're doing some new home runs, so 220, fixing some regulator issues that had some concerns as we started doing decoupling. Our lighting system would not like that, so we're looking at that. Also, at the same time, non-product, too many others. Partial fence is also being closing out this spring. Storm removal building, we just got bids back, was the most atrocious bids I think I've ever seen for a building. $1,000, over $1,000 a square foot for the admin portion, and over
Are you
almost,
kidding?
no, almost $600 a square foot for the SRE portion. Got some numbers from TO on just a steel, even just a standard, what you think of as a hangar is pushing 280 a square foot or 270 a square foot. So
How many people responded to the RFP?
this was a bid.
Oh, it was a bid.
We had one responder.
Okay.
It was high.
It was high. It was 8.8 million. Yesterday, we just rejected it. We're looking at rebidding it. We're cutting a bunch of things out. We're redoing it to see if we can get something different. But even though standard steel structure is still looking $280 a square foot, it seems ridiculous to me.
So how does that compare to the previous bid we had?
It's actually almost, it's slightly less, but it's not that far off. It's, Corey, would you have anything other to share with that?
I think it'll be less, that we're looking at a pre-engineered metal building, so like a hangar type structure. It'll be the same size, but very simple and very streamlined. And then the airport can work maybe put in, restroom facilities and finish the inside, in the future.
With our money.
Yeah,
Yeah, the FAA only has, $1.1 million to put in on this, so, and the state has some, but the rest of it's gonna be county money, so we're trying to get it down as.
Do you think we'll get any of the county money from the $35 million they got for COVID relief?
no,
As I know the FAA has a pot of money, it's only a certain size. When they look at these projects going forward, are they gonna take into account the price of building materials and everything else?
Thank.
No?
so the issue is they get $3.2 million every year, and that's their pot that they deal with.
Okay.
If you would like to call your senator and your representative and tell them that they should increase that next time they authorize, we'd be happy to do that. But that's our problem is their pot isn't growing, and it hasn't grown in over 15 years. The cost of construction has gone up a lot in 15 years.
Right.
So can we get any additional funding from the state through the aeronautical
The
division?
state is actually looking at providing, it's actually pretty good support to some projects. We're scrambling to get this into place. It's, the FAA I don't think wants to try to find a home for $1.1 million in the next few weeks. So we're trying to figure it out.
Stephen, what's the square footage of the building? I didn't look at it.
90 by 110.
10,000 square feet.
And we're not even doing, it has to have sewer with it because we need drains, so it's good, got some of that stuff, but
That doesn't
Did
include the
Stan
snow, doesn't include the snow removal equipment,
no.
No.
which is another $1 million.
Did Stancraft Construction want to bid on that?
They looked at it, but they don't have a public works contractor license,
Oh, okay.
so they can't.
It's not hard to get.
Yeah, they could get it.
Public Works like.
They didn't look at it soon enough.
I was gonna say, they're not hard to get.
When are you gonna revisit it?
Next month or so, let me know if you want to be on the list. I'm gonna send it out to lots of people.
Wow. Put in the numbers and then I have the public works license.
Oh.
So yeah, we're working towards getting something. It's not gonna be a building that is going to be it's not gonna be a good building, it's gonna be a building.
Will it be
It's gonna be a tent.
It's gonna be, the problem is and my concern is it's not gonna meet our needs into the future. It'll be a building, but it's not something that it will probably take us 5 to 10 years to be able to actually truly transition into it.
Can it be built in a modular fashion so you can add on to it?
The structure is gonna be the structure, but it's everything else that's going into it, because we still need some sort of maintenance facility in there. The design showed a mezzanine, because the whole goal is to transition out of our shops that we exist today. Well, that houses our electrical system, our electricals, all of our stone, our paints, all those other things that we do as an airport, was going to be transitioning into that facility as well. So it's not, it won't be perfect, let's go with that. It'll be sufficient for the start, but we're gonna be spread out between about 6 buildings now.
When do you have to be out of this building in the plan?
It's gonna be interesting, because we're already stacked out through 27. But though it's probably one of the first projects the FAA is gonna have on their list, is that
In 27,
28.
to fix the landing with the taxi line?
Because this will be one of the last
Okay.
geometry issues.
Okay.
So I'm call with Gulfstream. I know most of you have received a phone call from Mr. Rogers. What the cost that was sent to him was actually the bid price for his section of extension of sewer. That was not the airport increasing the cost, that was just our cost to extend sewer to his facilities, nothing more. So he's required to have he wanted sewer for his facilities. Under the lease, all the newer leases, it states that The leasing is responsible for working with the utility provider, which is us, and paying for all extensions.
Well, that's just for the sewer and water, right? We still got the power.
That's any utility.
Oh, really? Okay.
So how far is the sewer from this building right here?
No, it's not.
Oh.
It's on D1A is the first flag.
Potential construction.
It's a new construction.
That is on the north side.
No, it's on the south side.
Oh.
Because there's a small add-on project.
The over,
Yeah,
over here, right?
in here.
Hang on, let me pull.
Okay. Fix it, we don't have to drive through your parking lot to get to advanced. To be honest.
It's actually a pretty significantly long, significant line. It's about 600 feet to serve 3 lots. So it's a lot of extension. Because we're actually pulling sewer from here, going down and around this way. It's a very long extension for 3 lots. And this was the closest point. You couldn't feed, we weren't able to pull from here, which is where the next sewer line is. Weren't able to pull from here to get the depth for the drain. That was the only spot.
To gravity.
To gravity. So, but otherwise, we do plan on starting this construction approximately May 2nd is the plan currently. For the rest of this section as well. So we hopefully should have that soon. It should be wrapped up in about a month or 2. Infinite apron utility expansion, we're going to be having a meeting with prospective people that are looking at this. Their cost for a rough estimate is about $80,000 per lot.
And how many lots?
6. So this is a very significant expansion as well. Food, water, sewer, gas, everything. Rehabilitation at 624. We started the design of this as well as the survey work, which is why 624 has been closed off and on the last couple of days. So we
Appreciate the emails, by the way, Linda.
Yeah, that was good.
Sorry, Steve.
So we've been doing survey work, also coring, and then also what's called a falling weight assessment, which is a study to determine the subbase compaction, whether the subbase needs to be repaired or not below.
So you may have to pull the whole thing up. You don't have money for that.
It depends on typically what you find is there may be 1 or 2 spots that have the subbases degraded, and you do unclassified excavation. You'll dig it down until such point when you find it, you'll regrade the whole thing and reset the whole thing. It's pretty standard to have a couple spots like that in an airport. It happens, especially with a piece of pavement that's been there for 40 years. Big Sky with the sewer line study is nearly done, so we should have that final report in the next few months. That'll be in our GIS as well as the video will be available, so we can transfer those very easily. So that's it. ATC, we should actually have something here hopefully soon.
What are you after there?
So it's the initial planning start process. Basically getting everybody on board on the same page, doing some stakeholder meetings, make sure everybody understands what the goal of it is, because the goal of it is we don't want to pay for it. We want the FAA to pay for it. And we need support and letters from the pilot community, the airport users, there'll be form letters that we'll draft. And then also getting our congressional delegation behind and starting that process and the letters, and also getting documentation and the numbers behind traffic counts.
Okay, now.
When do you think it'll be done?
Well, I was thinking that, are you talking about the Forest Service setting up a control tower?
This is
What are you
this
talking about?
will be a permanent tower. This is the starting process of a.
These are the drawings.
No.
No,
this
not
is-
to the drawing.
This is just the starting of the planning.
Whether we can justify it or not.
We have the justification to have a permanent tower.
Justification by who? The owners and tenants or us, the airport?
That's the airport.
In the FAA, right?
It's going to them and telling them this is what we see.
So how are we gonna do the traffic tracking?
We use FAA data sources and some internal data sources.
Do we have to make a visual account?
You know, FlightAware, I don't know what they're tracking. They did a pretty good job.
NBB antennas sitting on the field, but
Oh,
I know it's FlightAware's antenna.
oh, really? Okay. Can I interrupt? Can I take in another little bunny trail? How about the people that we're possibly gonna do the billing for landing fees? Are we still looking at that or?
We're still looking at that.
Okay, well, thank you.
We had a conversation with Stancraft. They don't have an interest in doing it. They don't really like doing it now. Should really kind of push that. We could internally do it, but really that means we'd have to add another staff person to support that level of positioning. So we would look to actually have them do it because long run, it's cheaper for them to do it per year than it would be for us to hire somebody, especially right now.
Just for what it's worth, I got a little feedback there. Landing fees might be pretty steep for the smaller airplanes, but that's where we're at.
We actually don't charge anybody over 8,000, so under 8,000, excuse me. Good. So right now, we also updated our project list because part of the newest bill, the pass, which is the bipartisan infrastructure bill. We received some money from that, which is approximately $295,000 a year. The plan is to have that go into the SRE building this year. The years after is actually planned to go into SRE equipment because we do not want that to go into our high priority projects because the FAA will already find money for that.
Well, they're paying for part of the snowplow equipment, aren't they? They have.
It's they will,
Okay,
but doesn't mean they do.
okay.
You have to keep in mind the snow plows and snow equipment is one of the lowest priority FAA things that exists.
So is that a revenue for 5 years or how? You
So-
said annual.
So the next 5 years, it's $295,000, but after 2 years, they're reassessing it and basing it. But it's for commercial service airports, they're reassessing it. GAs, I believe, is just staying at 295. For our size GAs, it's staying at 295.
Beyond the 2 years?
Beyond, I believe. I haven't heard or seen definitively after that.
So, I had a question. So we talk about the development on the north side. When do we think we'll see that start building up?
I'm moving dirt now.
They are?
So the north side,
Oh, that's a
Gulf
big
Stream,
one.
we have Stancraft has started construction. There's one other person that has their hangar actually sitting over there.
Okay,
They ordered it before they finished their building plans.
cool. And so the infinity ramp, when do you think you'll see action there? I know you know if this is 5 years or 3 years.
The people who want to build on it want to build this year, but I don't think we can get all the infrastructure into place this year. I just don't, just for how challenging Gulfstream Road was, I don't think we can get
Okay,
a contractor to install it this year.
but that could be relatively soon.
It'll probably be next year.
Okay, then finally, just for my own entertainment, if everything went good with the air traffic control tower, when do you think that would be built?
Somewhere between 5 and 10 years down the road. Unless there is funding in the new bill, the bipartisan infrastructure bill, that does allocate for federal towers. But that is very much up in the air on where that's gonna go. It's kind of depending on where the FAA wants to put it.
So have they made any kind of request for towers, for funding for that?
if you look at most of the FAA-owned towers in the country, they all date back to the 60s.
They want contract towers, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
They want to switch to contract towers with the airports on, and smaller airports especially.
Anything else, Stephen?
Don't believe so. I think that's it.
Any more comments or questions for Stephen? Okay, Coeur d'Alene Airport Association update.
I'll give a brief update on one issue. The association asked the county commissioners to take a look at Part 139 and to set up an independent assessment of the margin between Part 139 and maintaining this airport in the same condition that it is right now under just general aviation, non-Part 139. And yesterday at the county commissioners meeting, the commissioners directed Stephen to take a look at setting up an RFP to solicit that type of independent assessment. And today, the association, and by that I'm going to say me, asked Stephen if we could be involved in drafting and helping to draft the solicitation, in which I think is reasonable since the request originally came from us, and we're trying to make this as independent as possible, having all parties involved. And I haven't gotten an answer from Stephen yet, but he came back with a question: is the association willing to stand part of the cost of the study once it's done, if we do it? And my response back was that we believe that this is just like any other study that the county commissioners would undertake in order to do their fiduciary responsibility of management, to look at options that are available to them and the cost of what they're doing, and that we thought it was a county issue at this time. Now, that wasn't a no. I mean, we need to address the full association in order to come back and answer that question if it's a condition to being involved. I don't know if it is or not at this point. Maybe Stephen could answer that. But our preference is that we just like to be cooperative and be a participant in this, and we think it's a reasonable request without any other conditions being placed on us. So that's the only thing that I want to say as far as the association at this time. I do have some personal comments that I'd like to make after that in the public comment section.
Steve. Right, public comment. Who would like to go first?
Regarding agenda items,
Have I not done that with the agenda items?
sometimes no. So this last thing was association update, that's great, but what are you going to comment on? I'm just curious.
Well, I'm going to answer the group, not you. So
Of course.
my comments are related to the agenda. And the first thing is, in reading through the report, obviously TO Engineering is doing a lot of work for the airport. And there's a lot of open call items that TO is working on, which I presume they're going to do it regardless of what the budget is. And I just have a question about that. When is the last time you as a group reviewed what the cost of TO Engineering is and how competitive are their pricing and what they're doing? I mean, it appears they've done this for a long time.
I could answer that 2 years ago. They, I think it was RFP for engineering 2 or 3 years ago.
So you have to keep in mind, we do an engineering selection every 5 years. It's not based upon price. Anything over $100,000 requires an independent fee review. And that is done by an independent firm. They're not allowed to bid on that RFP. So that is a completely independent firm. They have their own engineers, they do their own assessments, and they review every single task order that's over $100,000 to determine whether it is fair or not.
Who is it that reviews it?
The company,
No, who in this group reviews?
nobody. This advisory board doesn't review those. It's the airport staff and then this goes to.
That's their job.
Okay, well, that answers the question. We don't need to belabor this. We've been here for a long time tonight. So, the other thing is that given the fact that we came in with $8.8 million for the SRE building and the admin building, which is crazy. And there were a lot of bells and whistles on that original deal. Obviously, if we're able to go back now and say, now we're going to give you a bare bones thing, which is what, most people do. They look at what the needs are and they set up a request based on that, which to me says that the first time through, we were hoping for more than what we needed. And so I think that's a question that should be put to you all as a group, and you have to put it to the airport director as to why now do we come back and think that we can drop this from 8.8 million down to something that's going to be in the threshold. So that's the last.
Well, I'll say my personal opinion is we did see the presentation from the consultants.
Okay.
And I really didn't see a lot of bells and whistles. I saw 2 truck bays where you could drive through with drainage, a little shop area, and an office that is like, how big was the office going to be? 1,500 square feet or something?
2,900 square feet counting the.
Media room.
But I'm going by when they asked me to do.
Right, okay.
We heard from TO say this afternoon that there's a bunch of things that they're gonna cut out to try to make it work. So I'm just going by that. The final thing is that I really feel this gentleman's pain. And I don't know what the answer is. I think you guys are put in a box a little bit. However, I think that having, been looking at this for 2 years and trying to have a dialogue with the airport manager and the airport and they knew that he had a lease with Resort Aviation that allowed him to operate legally last year, that when Resort came up for sale to someone, it almost seems that it would be incumbent on the airport to say, okay, we've got other tenants here that have depended on operations out of Resort, and how are you going to protect them in order to make this transfer? That seems like it would have been a reasonable thing to do, and he wouldn't be in this position. So, I don't want to fight his fight. I fought enough fights for other things, but I really bleed for you. I don't know what the answer is, and I don't know what your answer is either, because at this point, I think you're put into a box because Stancraft owns it, and if Stancraft doesn't want to support skydiving, then he's screwed.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment? Corey, were you going to say something?
Can I just respond that the $8.8 million was an all-in cost, including the office, the admin building, that was going to be all county funded. So there was about 3.5, I don't have the exact numbers with me, but they scaled back and they're not doing an office building with this rendition. It's just going to be a box, and it won't have any of the tools or the cabinets and that sort of thing in this rendition. So that was what I wanted to share.
Also, we're cutting pavement out, we're cutting
Parking.
we're
Yeah.
cutting.
And the end result of the original SRE building was, here it is, and we can use it for the next 20 years. As Stephen was stating earlier, this now is going to have to be piecemeal and brought back up to those standards so that they have what it is that they need so that they can operate out of a single unit. So, we're not getting what it is that we want. We're getting what we can get.
Did I respond to that?
Absolutely.
Brief.
That also sounds like getting a little bit pregnant right now, and you're headed down the path that now we got it, now we need the toilets, we need the paving, we need the this, we need the that, and it ends up being a price that's not the price that we're looking at right now. So that to me is not a justification.
Okay, any other public comment?
I have one.
Yes, sir.
I don't know the answer, that's what I'm asking. The part 139, does the funding for the tower come easier for 139?
In my opinion, it's gonna help with the justification for it.
Okay, that was all I had. Thank you.
Any other public comments out there? Welcome to your first meeting. Do you have anything you want to say?
No,
Okay.
I didn't need a control tower. Great.
I think you're right.
You got a checkbook?
Yeah.
I'll figure it out.
Okay. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn.
Good job, guys. It's 5 minutes after 6.
There you go.
Everybody's happy.
Yeah.